we're going to get things started. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. So,
Great.
Like,
Wonderful.
I literally have the notes here. Like, I didn't, F those notes. I plan on bringing that up possibly if that's our notes.
Yeah.
Because
we don't need them.
We don't need them. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We could talk for 45 minutes ish and be like, we could figure it out.
I could talk for 45 minutes about the millions of marathons that you run. Like, we don't even have to talk about me. We can just talk about.
See, I don't like this. I don't like
what?
This is the last time. I think that was the last show before we were recording, maybe after. You're like, what if we switched it up? And then I ask you questions like, no. That's not how this game works. We're not playing this game. But
all right.
That's funny. I think that's right music. Yeah, it's right music. Let's hit that button.
Yeah. I'm going to mute us. We'll get us started and we'll just do this thing.
Okay.
Welcome to Run With Purpose. This is episode number 113. And for those of you that are new to the show, my name is Flores, and I'm so very glad that you found this podcast. Would love if you would subscribe. And as always, you can reach out to me on all of the socials at flores.run. I hate already that I'm looking down here in the corner. It's annoying, but it's okay.
I didn't even notice.
Well, everyone else is watching the videos and be like, what's going on here? All right. Today on the show, we have a not a new face. It's been a while. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But she's an inspirational coach and just all around joy to have conversations with. I don't know why it's been so long since I've had her on the show. And she recently launched a podcast called Coming Home to You that you can find everywhere podcasts are found. Kati, thank you for joining me again on the show.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. Thank you. I like had this intuitive ping come through. Actually, it wasn't an intuitive ping. It was slightly, but I had a memory pop up on my Instagram. We were just before we recorded this talking about how not great at technology I am, but I somehow figured out how to find memories on Instagram, like from past stories. And it popped up like 2 years ago, must have been 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. I don't know.
If that would have been our first one, then
that would have been 3 years ago.
So that would have been
probably
in 2020. Holy crap.
Yeah. But it popped up that we were recording then and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I have to tag you in this. Like, remember we used to do this like all the time, so much so that they're like, we get it. We've seen Kati before. This is like the third or fourth time we got it.
Yeah. Kati does the things. It's just the things to do. They have conversations. They enlighten people.
We talk all day. It's the longest episodes and you like got to make sure that you're going on a really long commute. They got a lot to say. Yeah, but I'm very grateful. Thank you for having me back. I always have so much fun when we do this.
Well, it's going to be a blast, I'm sure. One thing I'm trying to do with all of the guests I have on the show now is plug all of your things up front, just in case people don't make it to all the way in. You should make it all the way to the end. Don't cut this episode short. But if they don't, Kati, tell them how they can connect with you.
Yeah. Don't cut it short. There's always nuggets in here somewhere. Like there's something that one of us is going to say that you're going to want to like write down, or it's going to be the thing that sticks in your head for like the next 2 weeks. Every time I'm listening to a podcast episode, even when I'm like driving, it'll be like 45 minutes in and I'll say something and I'm like, oh,
where's my pen?
And I have to like, pull over, like write it down. Anyways. So you can find me on Instagram at Kati.Vanloo, VANLOO. Plug all the things. Well, I feel like that might be part of our conversation today, but like since we did our last episode, which was like a year and a half ago, which is bananas, my coaching and mentorship has shifted a little, which I can talk a little bit about that evolution in case that's of interest. But I do a lot of self-discovery, self-mastery work with women now. So it's shifted from just nutrition based on my own personal journey and realizing like, that was a foundational piece to like all this other like really deep work that I personally went through. And I found that all of my clients were like, but what's this other like stuff that you're doing? What's this like subconscious reprogramming, like breath work and visualization and meditation? And then it was like my expansion exploded. All of my spirituality became very much a part of my work. And so I really help women reconnect with their own body wisdom now. So not just the nutrition, but like their chakra system, their energetic system, like all these different things, like really getting back in tune with their body, their self-expression, and basically unlocking their personal powers that they've been programmed out of so that they can actually attract the things that they want in their life. So lots of different modalities now involved in my work. And it's such a freaking joy. And I'm so glad that I get to do it. So if any of that sounds like what, you can just come over to my Instagram, look at all the things I'm posting. I'm trying to post more videos and talking through some of these concepts because sometimes it can feel really high level, and I'm doing my best to kind of break it down. But I mean, if you want me to plug all the things up front, I just got done with, like, you want me to just keep going? I just
Welcome to Coming Home to You podcast.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to mention that, but Coming Home to You, my podcast, is a space that allows me to kind of just talk. I'm very much a talker. I'm very much someone who likes to break things down. These concepts are really big and high level, so I try to piece them down in little, like, tangible bite-sized pieces that you can walk away with every single week. So Coming Home to You is the space where I sit down with a microphone with my lack of technology knowledge, and I sit down and I talk about these things. I do one-on-one work with women, so one-on-one mentorship. And then I just had a masterclass called League of Her Own, which is all about claiming all parts of you and really getting clear on what you actually want in life, like getting super clear and honest with yourself about that. And then like alignment, because alignment is such a buzzword. So we went over all of that in the latest masterclass. And then this is actually not announced to the public yet, but I'm feeling really called to share it right now. I don't know when this podcast is going to go live, but
next week, 2 weeks, week and a half, something like that.
Okay, cool. It'll probably be announced by then, but I am launching my next 3 big embodiment programs. So each of them will be 2 to 3 weeks long, 4 to 5 trainings each, lots of embodiment, like physical work along with the teachings for late May / June and July. I'm going to be launching them next week. Nice. And so I'm launching them all together because they really build off one another. And so you can get a whole bundle of them, all 3. You could do all of them. And it's obviously cheaper when you bundle it all together. But the first one is the Art of Energetics, which is really mastering your own energetic system. How do we balance the feminine and masculine energies? Like, what does that even mean? A lot of women don't even know that they have both types of energies. And it's so important to like your well-being and being able to like function well. And it trickles into everything, like your relationships, your work, like all of this. So energy systems, and like even past the like trying to think your way through the energy systems is never going to work. It's actually feeling it in your body. So that's the Art of Energetics. And then we have Emotions and Alchemy, which is the second one that's going to be happening late May, early June, which is all about this idea of your emotions and your thoughts having a certain frequency that are showing the universe what you're trying to call in. So a lot of people are like, just think positive, like be high vibe all the time. And it's like very much like they're not calling in they're not seeing what they want in their reality when they're doing that, when they're just like, I feel shitty. Okay, I'm just going to like bypass it. And I'm just going to like high vibe my way. And I'm just like, it doesn't work. Like that's
what?
Never
that doesn't work?
So, no. So it's the program where we really talk about like, what is emotional alchemy? Like when you have these quote unquote, like low vibrational energy in your body, like you feel stressed, you feel mad, you feel angry, like like how do we take that and like alchemize it, transmute it into something where you neutralize it and then can move with it, which is actually how you do that in order to like raise your frequency, in order to like hold all the emotions. So that's Emotions and Alchemy. And then the last one, thank you so much for allowing me to talk about all this. Of course. I'm very excited because I literally haven't even launched this yet. The last one is called Magnetic as Hell, which I was like, this is what this is going to be called. I'm not even going to get fancy with it. It's about you becoming the magnet for all the things that you want in life. And it's like beyond, it's kind of combining all the things together. So the energetic system, the emotional frequency scale. And then also in Magnetic as Hell, we're going to dive a little bit more into the chakra system. How do you create the actual like magnetic aura that you are in order to move your energy through your body, show the universe that you're a match? And it's not only like the energetics, it's like, this is where the physical part of my work, the physical nutrition and all these things, how does that play a part into your own magnetism? And so it's like, that's the big beefy program. So all 3 programs coming up are like, they're so good. So you can do one of them, you can do all 3 of them, you can do all 3 of them plus one-on-one mentorship. So you'd get me and we can do one-on-one work together, diving into it even more. All of those are options. If you have any curiosities about any of that, you can just come over to my Instagram and we can chat more about it.
You're doing literally all the things and I don't have a job. You know what I mean? Like this is how I feel right now, if we're going to be honest. No. But it's so great. Like I remember from the last 2 conversations that we had of just kind of diving into these things where you were finding the stuff that was very health related, very nutrition related there. But we could see the transformation. You said before we started recording this idea of like the programming and how we get out of that and how we change like our mindset and shift. It's just so crazy to see like in this time frame, in this last year and a half since we chatted, just the growth in it. I've been following on the sidelines, big fan. So I mean, everyone else should be following you too. If they're not, follow now.
Follow now for goofy content.
Yeah. I'm
trying to bring more of my silliness out on the Instagram, but we'll see. Yeah.
That's what you got to do sometimes. Yeah. It was, so when we talked last week, I think I reached out and I was like, you sent me that memory. And then I was just like, we need to get you on. First we said, I need more of Kati in my life. How do I talk to Kati? So we're like, hey, let's schedule some time.
We're just going to talk.
Yeah. And
we didn't even know we were going to record.
And then I was just like, hey, like, do you just want to record it as well? And we're like, here we go. So like in all seriousness, everyone knows from previous episodes, we talked about this. I don't really write a lot of notes as it is. I don't like noted conversations, scripted conversations, Literally the script. So the title of the episode, it probably will change based on what we have, is unscripted and it's F those notes. That's the only note I have on the Google Notes. So we have no idea what this conversation is going to be about. So thank you for joining along on the ride.
Yeah. It always turns out to be something really good because I also don't write really any notes for my podcast. Like in fact, I was just telling a client about this the other day because she was like, wow, it's like, I feel like your podcast is really thought out and like the ideas are kind of building upon each other. And I was like, I'm glad you're thinking that because literally I sit down like the day of to record, which spoiler alert, this is probably like not like any other podcaster. I sit down the night before it comes out.
That would stress me out.
Well, it is a little stressful. Like I could do it differently, but I just haven't. But I sit down the night before and I like sit there and I go into a meditation and I go like, what needs to come through? And then I'm like, all right, well, that's what we're talking about today. And then I record it and I put it out. And I'm glad everyone thinks that it's like really strategic, but that's a great example of energetics. That's my feminine energy coming through and letting that lead. So, yeah, it's been a very wild ride in my own expansion journey too. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because you and I are similar in that nature of being able to we're passionate about certain things and things pop up in our heads or when we're thinking about things and going, hey, I wonder why hasn't someone broken down this way? Like we're curious, we're asking why. We're not just accepting things because that's the way they've always been done or that's the way it should be done, quote unquote, right? And I think I do very similar like today. So today I wrote notes so this episode's going to come out for everyone listening. I apologize. Not this Tuesday, the next Tuesday. So the episode for this Tuesday, I wrote today just a brief notes and I haven't recorded it yet. So we're technically recording this episode before I record the one that people would listen to last week. Gotcha. But it's that same idea of like, something came in my head while I was handling with this job situation, everything going on, this idea of, I don't like where I'm at right now, not from not having a job, but I feel like I'm useless. I feel like I'm not producing anything. So because I'm not busy, that means I'm not actually doing something. And it came to this whole idea of when did busy become our default and why is rushing into things and rushing through life, that being our default, making us feel like we aren't good enough, if we're not
Mm-hmm.
powering through all that. So I'm going to break all of that down in an episode that will be recorded technically after this one, but you all would have heard it before this one.
Yeah.
But so I won't go into those notes there, but I think we both have that similar vibe of when something comes in our head, we're like, hey, let's share this, because it's one of those, I say I'm relatively introverted, but I don't have a problem kind of speaking my mind about things. And I think you're the same way with especially some of the episodes you've released. It's really getting into kind of your thought process behind it. It's not, there's obviously some, this sounds horrible, my even wording. I was like, there's some facts, there's some science and things behind the topics you're talking about.
Totally.
But the idea is you're coming with your like authentic self. And that's, I think, what presents through it.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. First of all, I can't wait to hear that episode because I have so much to say about busyness and the end of the day, I didn't do enough today. Feelings. Woo, that was part of my journey. Still is part of my journey even. But yeah, with the sharing, that didn't always come naturally for me. Actually, I've always been really great at like quote unquote public speaking. Mm-hmm. And I'm also really naturally introverted. Like I am, for anyone who knows human design, I'm a projector. And so I guess reflectors are probably the ones that are most affected by other people's energy. But like I have huge energy ebbs and flows. So like when I am on and around people, and I love it and I can thrive. And especially when I'm around the right people, like it's great. But then I have to like go home and like if you're not watching the video, like I literally have to like lay down with myself and like just be like, okay, like so much energy. I take on a lot of people's energy and I have to like really recharge. I'm someone who sleeps like 9 to 10 hours a night, like every night. So that has always come naturally to me, the public speaking, and being able to like communicate what it is that I'm there to communicate and all these things, but it has not always come naturally to me to share vulnerably. And that was actually like a big thing with launching this podcast of like really shifting into this new mentorship meant I have to show more of myself and my journey. Like it's so important for me to embody and demonstrate my own work. I am the biggest testimonial for my work because I am always committed to growth and evolution because that's what I think we're here to do. And so I launched the podcast in tandem with this new work that I'm doing to almost like hold myself accountable for like every week we're going to sit down and we're talking about concepts that I teach on and that I mentor women to do. But I try to weave in my own experiences because the storytelling component of it, the relatability, the being able to connect with one another, my ability to be like, I went through this or I am going through this right now and I can hold the space to guide others through it too. Like that is so important and doesn't feel supernatural to me. It's not supernatural, but super
natural. Yeah.
Super natural. It's becoming more natural now, but like when I very first started the podcast, I was like, oh God, I have to share all my stories. And I'm sharing like the shit with you. Yeah. Like I'm sharing like the stuff that like was super out of alignment that just felt icky for me. And like even like sharing the patterns of like, I had to go through this like multiple times and do the thing of like, God damn it, Katie, like, why are we here again? Like literally, I haven't even talked about it on my podcast yet. It hasn't come out through my intuition telling me that I need to share it yet, but I'll share it here. Like one of the things is this pattern that I'm really working through with my own energetics of like, of the doing, because I'm so passionate about the work that I'm doing that I will start packing more and more and more and more and more into my schedule, but it's not in alignment with my projector human design. I require a lot of rest and I require a lot of like sitting with myself, the meditation, the like creative flowing, like just being like feminine energy. And I default to masculine, do. Like, and it's so comfortable that like, even as I was doing this work and I'm creating these programs and I'm like, fucking in it. I'm like, this is amazing. These are going to change lives. I like burnt myself out again. And I was like, there's too much in my schedule. And then we start to do the things of layering and oh my God, how did we get here? Like, what do we have to let go? Like, And that's just me. Like, I'm going to share that. Like, I'm real. I don't think anyone who's in this self-development space, especially mentors and coaches, like if they're claiming that they figured it all out and they are like 100% doing all the right things for themselves all the time, like it don't work
full
with
of
them.
shit.
They're full of shit. Like we're all still working on ourselves, and it's my job to embody my work and understand it fully and know it in my body, not to get it 100% right all the time.
Right.
I just need to know what it feels like and have that space to be able to guide others to figure it out in themselves. That's the other part of my work that's really important, is like, no, I am never saying, and then this was the same when I only did nutrition as well. I'm not saying you should do exactly what I do. I'm saying you should see what I'm doing, who I'm being, and then figure out what that feels like for yourself in your own way and proceed that way. And that's why I really took on the title mentor, because coaches give blueprints. They give you exact plans. I mentor women into coming home to themselves, figuring out the things that work for themselves to unlock the things that are already within them. They just have all these blocks and conditioning that are preventing them from getting there.
Yeah. I think there was so much in there. I was trying to write my notes, and then I'm just like,
it always happens on my podcast too. I'm like 32 tangents.
Yeah. You're just like, this is 6 different episodes right now. So it is what it is. No, but this idea of the vulnerability and holding yourself accountable, I think that is so good, and a thing that a lot of people don't do. It's almost the like, it's the do as I say, not as I do type mentality of just like, I'm telling you all the things, but I'm definitely not going to do the things because that's just silly. I talked about in the last episode I had with the last guest, this idea that I literally released the Uncertainty podcast I had, which I thought was an amazing episode. And I don't like to toot my own horn, but I actually felt good about that episode.
Yeah, toot your horn.
The very next day, found out I was laid off. And you're just like, now talk about that and figuring out, okay, now are you going to practice what you preach? Are you going to 100%. Then say, how do you handle it in uncertainty? That is going to show you who you truly are when you handle yourself in those moments. And I think this being vulnerable, man, the English language, and holding yourself accountable to those standards. I think that's where the authenticity comes through in having those conversations, because people can be like, she's not full of shit. She knows she doesn't get it right all the time. None of us do. So when this is really bothering me. It like keeps getting brighter because the sun is now shining through, and it's just, love that. It's great. Other than you're killing my light for the video.
Killing my vibe in here.
Everyone listening to the podcast is just like, why is he bitching about the lighting again? Like, we're not watching the video. Sorry, guys.
It's changing.
Yeah, but
it's fine. Go with it.
Yeah, we're just going to roll with it. If it gets dark now, too bad. But having that, being vulnerable and having that authenticity helps kind of connect then with people. It helps connect with your audience because they know you're not full of shit. And when you make mistakes, you're willing to kind of own up to them. And I think that's what the difference of podcasts like yours and mine, and there's countless others, just a lot of really great podcasts out there, is this idea that we're being real and telling you how it is and the things that we're struggling with too. It's not an Instagram highlight reel. This isn't the best of the best. You're getting raw emotions and raw things coming through this. And I think this whole idea of being real and being true really comes across. And I think it helps portray a message to folks of like, hey, it's okay to be messed up. Like, that's okay. We all have our things.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one going through your thing. Your thing is not my thing, but someone else is also going through your thing, and that's okay. But we can get into this idea where we focus too much on ourselves, and I'm the only one going through this. No one else understands this. And again, I'm not going to pretend to know everyone's situation and how they're going through things, but I can tell you there's tools and tips that you can use to get through any circumstance. Some might be easier than others, but it's not always, there's always a way kind of to cut through that noise.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, I'm not surprised at all by that timing. Now that we just put those pieces together, the timing of that. Oh man, it is. If that isn't the universe being like, all right, let's test out what
You're
you
up.
Oh my God, the amount of times like there's been things like that come up for me of like, truly that's like my own spiritual beliefs is like, if you're putting out, you're calling in these things, you're trying to show the universe you're a vibrational match for something. It's gonna be like, okay, how do you handle this? Mm-hmm. Are you really ready? Like, can you hold it? Like whatever it is. And that's, I think, really a frustrating part for a lot of people is like, well, that's not what I thought that was going to look like. You know, like, yeah. And I'm like, no, but that's it. That's the opportunity right there to like show. Anyways,
exactly.
Sidetrack, tangent. But yeah, the vulnerability piece is so important to me because we're all going through things. The second that you think that it's just you, and the second you silo yourself off from that connection, from seeking support, whatever it is the moment where you actually start to make it worse. And the best thing you can do is actually like open it up. And like, I try to be really careful with like the seeking support thing, because that really looks different for everyone. Like, I'm not for everyone. I'm not the mentor for every single woman. I'm really not. And I hope that you can have the discernment to be able to figure that out for yourself by like getting to know me and my work, taking masterclass, whatever it is, and figuring it out for yourself. And like, that's also part of my standards is like, I'm never going to sell you on anything. I want you to have the discernment to know what it is, where you're being called, like listen to your intuition. That's the thing. But you have to be able to kind of open that up to the possibility of you're not alone in this. Others have experienced similar feelings, maybe not the exact experience that you're in, and trying to learn from others of how they handled certain situations that may be similar. And that's why I think it's really important for us to be vulnerable, share our stories, because we're all going through things. It's the whole point of life. As I just said, universe will be like, hello, here you go. How are you going to handle this? How are you going to hold this? Like, what are you going to do with this? And show me what it is. Are you going to hold the things that you said? Like, even when it gets hard, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, like whatever it is. Yeah. Like, oh, you really want to find true love? Okay, let's send this guy that's like almost perfect, but has one huge red flag that you said is definitely a deal breaker. Like, are you going to acknowledge that? Are you going to, like, you know what I mean? It's never served up in the way that you think it's going to be. It's served up in the way that the universe is like, all right, this is perfect for you to learn the lesson, to do the thing, like whatever it is. And so we got to tell our stories. We got to share our experiences. And especially if you are in the space of coaching and guiding others, like, I think it's so important because that's the whole point.
Yeah. I think
that's the whole point.
You're right. Your point of sharing stories, I think, is so important because we all have a story to show. That's the whole reason I started this podcast, is to get people that didn't have a platform, that had a story. We all have stories. I just want to meet cool people and hear cool shit. Like, hey, you're doing amazing things. Like, let me hear about it. Right. And I think we can get into this idea, and culture really puts this on us of like, if my story is not good enough, then I don't want to share it because it's not going to be this like glorious highlight kind of thing. And then we start that process of, you said, we shut down, we feel siloed, we get into this negative space. And I think that's where it comes to, like, you have to be open to kind of share yourself. Now, I say that with the caveat, and this is probably on the borderline thing. There's also the idea of not trying to play a victim card and use your story to say, poor me in a situation. So obviously we have that caveat, but in the idea of you're sharing your story to lift others up or to give others hope, to say, hey, I went through this. It's not the same thing you went through. I had different circumstances. I grew up in a different area. I have different background, whatever the case might be, but I went through something similar. And this is what helped me. Maybe it'll help you, or let's talk about it. Maybe you just need to talk it out. I think if we could, as a society, be more open to kind of just listening to people, giving the space for people to share their stories, but also being able to listen to them, it then allows the minority of us sharing our stories that becomes more popular, and it becomes less taboo to be able to share that, because people are like, oh no, here comes Karen again, wanting to share something. You're like, I don't want to listen. You know, we instantly push back and say no to these people when really they also have a story. Their story is no less important than your story, and you may learn something from them. I do it all the time when I'm doing races and stuff like that. Is I'll meet people and they'll say, you know, how many races have you done? How many? I'm like, I've done a handful. You know, because I'm not the one that's going to be like, I've done this many races, this many. Now, if someone tries to one up me, I put them back in their place. But, you know, like if it's coming off from a negative tone, I'm going to say like, hey, knock you off your high horse real quick. Usually my wife is the one that does that for me. And it's hilarious when she does.
Actually?
Yeah. You're like, well, let me tell you a story. But this idea of, I don't want anyone to ever feel that they're less than in a situation. So if someone says, hey, this is my first marathon, like, way to go. That is so awesome. Oh, I've only run a half. Like, that's still amazing. Great. You know, and I think if we can combine those things, again, giving people space to tell their stories, but also being willing to actually listen, not just hearing to respond.
Yeah. Oh my God. There were so many like little things in there that I want to touch on. Like the things that are coming up is like, the idea of this victim mentality, that's really something that like strikes a chord with me, because that is a really crucial component to being someone who does share their story with the intention of someone else hearing it and finding a nugget of activation, inspiration, motivation out of it. Is you also have to be the person who is like, and I'm navigating through it. And I navigated through it. And this is how I moved through it. And like, talk about the emotions and alchemy. This is literally that program of like, I'm not going to sit in it. Like, I can see the vision of where it's going from here. Like, I don't have evidence that it's going to turn out exactly like this, but like, I can hold the vision. Like, and that's really important. That changes from the narrative of poor me, everything. Why is it me all the time? Why can't I XYZ? Like it's all negative. Like, it takes it from that to like, whoa, they were able to hold all that and hold the vision and keep going and make mistakes and keep going and try to something else and keep going and work with someone and not have it work and keep going. And oh no, my computer is going to die. I'm gonna have to plug in my charger here in a second. But, I was like, why is it telling me that I don't have my charger plugged in? It's definitely plugged in. It's literally right there. But that's that part that I feel like if you're going to be the person who's sharing your story, like, of course you can always share it in the middle of it, but also have the radical responsibility that you are going to move. You're going to hold the vision. You're going to move through it. You're going to do what it takes in order to grow. That's the whole point, especially if you're in the space of doing that. The other topic I want to touch on is taboo, but I'm going to plug in my computer charger before we get there.
Yeah. I'll
hold tight.
That's fine. I'll talk on this part as well, because you made a good point there of this kind of going through it and kind of giving that notion that, hey, I'm actually moving through this. That doesn't mean you need to have the solution. It could literally just be, I'm open to figuring out how to go through this. Like, hey, how do we get through these next steps? Hence why I'm sharing it with you, so you can maybe help guide me or help give me some thoughts or just bounce these ideas off of. I love that idea, because that's the main component that takes it from playing a pity poor me card into, I'm in this mess, but I'm working my way out of it. I don't know where this tunnel's going, but I'm following it and looking for the right doors. And hey, I might go through a door that, fuck, that was the wrong door. But guess what? I'm still going through doors. I'm taking those steps forward.
Yeah. And that also makes me think of, I did a whole episode on self-leadership, like what I think self-leadership really means. And that every leader, before they lead anyone else, should have like self-mastery and self-leadership. And this is that concept of like, self-leadership means like, I'm going to be able to do all that and navigate it and keep going. It doesn't mean that like some days you aren't going to be like, I need to sit in my shit today. And I need to like actually not hold it's gonna be okay feelings. Again, not like high vibing when you're like not in the space to be high vibing that day. Like it's just not, it's not helpful. But it is the self leadership for me is being able to really trust your intuition of making the next steps when it feels right for you. Like really, really committed to the self discovery journey. And when you think of really great leaders, are they people who just don't really have any vulnerability at all and just tell you what to do because that's what I say to do? And like, it's my way or the highway. Like, no, the greatest leaders are the ones who have radical self-leadership, and you've seen them go through hard shit and you're like, damn, and they still navigated through it and they like came out like a boss on the other side. And like, I saw them struggle and I saw them do it and get better. And that's how they have the knowledge in order to lead now. And so of course I'm going to trust them. Of course I trust their vision. Of course, because that's part of it that they actually let you in on seeing. And that's like a common misconception and kind of ties into this topic of taboos of like, we are so conditioned to not be weak. I have quote hands here if you're just listening. Don't be weak. Don't show anything that's considered like a negative emotion. Don't show people that you don't have it figured out. Like only show them when it's figured out. Only the highlight reel, like all these things. But if you actually think about the people that you admire most in this world, the leaders who are leading really big freaking movements or visions or whatever it is, I guarantee you've seen some of their shit. Yeah. I guarantee you that they are vulnerable. I guarantee that you've seen some of the quote unquote negative emotions. I guarantee you that the things that they once felt some sort of shame over, they've exposed it and they've alchemized it. And now it has become a source of their mission of whatever it is. Like that's these people with these huge visions. It's because they had some sort of shame, something that they were told was like taboo. And they were like, no, I'm going to share it. I'm going to figure it. I'm going to share this. Actually, I'm going to make it a source of my power. And that's like so much of the work that I do with women is like, we have been told and conditioned over and over all these things that are bad, wrong, taboo. Don't do this, get smaller. Don't do that. Look this way, but don't look that way. Like all this stuff. And the second we start to like give some of that back, and that's like, that's such a vague term, giving something back, meaning like literally reprogramming our brain, the neural pathways in our brain, literally moving the energy through our body, like reconnecting with where these emotions are stored in your body, because they are. That's why like there's somatic work of like moving the energy through your body. Like that's what giving it back is. And actually coming home to like what feels good to you, what is authentic to you, no matter what people think, no matter what people think. Even if it is taboo, like, I mean, we could really go down, like, my current mentor is like such a great embodiment of this, of like one of her mentors is like a conscious kink coach. Like talk about like taboo stuff. It's when we start to like alchemize this shame, take back like what is really true to us and give back what is not ours, not our stories, not us. Like that's where the magic happens. And that's what all the leaders that you look up to have done.
Yeah. It's really honing in on, again, this being real with what's going on, and then using those experiences to make a difference in whatever it is, of understanding like, hey, I hit this wall and this is the situation I went through, right? Like I've talked about it on a podcast before with my addiction I had with pornography, and this whole idea of like trapped in this situation, and all I felt was shame, just shame. And because of that, I couldn't even break out of it. I knew I didn't want to, but I couldn't break out of the situation. And then this conversation of just being able to talk about it and talk about it openly and freely. And you're just like, oh shit, like that's it, like that, doing that. And now because of that, because I recorded an episode on a couple other podcasts about that, this idea of people reaching out to me about my story saying, hey, I struggled with this, or I didn't struggle with that, but I struggled with something else very similar, and realizing how our stories really impact other people that we would have never thought about. But it's because we have to be vulnerable, be authentic, be real. And that's how, like you said, the leaders, with the role I was just in, most of the people on my team, that was the constant feedback I got, is that I was real in the situation. I didn't try to sugarcoat it. I didn't try to, obviously I took their feelings into consideration. I wasn't rude and a dick, but they understood that I had their back, and whatever decision, wherever we were going, we're moving together with it. And if it was a problem, it's as much as my fault as it's my team's fault, kind of thing. And I think when we get to this place where we don't want to show that weakness, we don't want to portray that, because especially as a leader, it's like, well, then that means I failed. And you're like, yeah, we all fail every day at something. We don't do everything right 100% of the time. It's just not possible. Again, if someone tells you they do, full of shit.
Yeah.
Don't
Which
follow
makes
them.
me think, I think on one of our older podcasts, we talked about this idea of failure too, of like, failure is actually a very personal thing. What might be a failure to you is not a failure to me. What a failure was to Katie 5 years ago is not a failure to Katie today. Like, speaking about myself in third person, that feels weird. But like,
we should just say the rest of the show.
That Katie, which is funny because I actually do a lot of like parts work now that like references like old versions of me that like make sense of like the things that come up for me is like, oh, that's like, I call her agency Katie, like that's agency Katie coming in and trying to protect me and saying this thing, like, and so even that, like the idea of failure is so personal to you. And like, what are the stories you have behind that? Like, are they yours? Are they the ones that are serving you right now? Like, do you actually believe that? Was that someone else that told you that's what a failure was like? And what happens if that failure happens to you? Like, what is going to happen? What is that going to mean about you? What have you made it mean about you that only you are the one that's making that meaning? No one else thinks that. Like, there's so much wrapped up in that. And it's like, God, we have so much conditioning.
Like, and that's it right there, is we put it on ourselves then. Because a lot of this stuff, people see it like, I don't see that at all in you. I don't think you act that way. And you're like, well, that's how I feel about myself. That's how I feel about here. Again, to the prime example of you're doing 80,000 things and I'm playing Pokemon all day. Yesterday, I like cleaned the house, vacuumed, put away the laundry, did all the things. And I literally, before we were going to bed, I was like, man, I feel like I didn't do anything today. And Kayla was like,
well, you can't do that at my house.
I've got time. I can fly over. But,
I would love to do that for a whole day.
Yeah. Kayla was like, she's like, but you cleaned, you vacuumed the entire place, you dusted the entire place, you did this, you prepped for some schoolwork, you finished your school project. Like, you did all these things, and you're like, oh, I guess I did. And I'm not a complete failure kind of thing. But again, it's that conditioning of, whether it's how we grew up or the people that we interact with, of how that feeling kind of seeps into us, and how all of these external forces say, if you don't do this, you aren't whatever the case might be. It's your idea of, we talked about nutrition and health on the first episode we did together. And this idea of like people that saying, hey, you should look skinny. And then skinny people are like, yeah, but I want to be fit. And then fit people are like, yeah, but I want to be. And it's like, there's not a right way for any of this. And the idea is there's always going to be someone that you could look to and say, actually, that's success. That person has made it because of whatever it is, whether it's status, wealth, fame, whatever it is. We can always find someone that's going to go there. The thing we need to be careful about is just not doing that. We need to understand what our authentic self is, and that's what we should be chasing. We chase our why. We don't chase other people's whys.
Yeah. And that's so important too, which kind of makes me remember, we talked a little bit about like your own why on one of the podcast episodes as well. That idea actually of like having someone that you like put on a pedestal is something that's really been a part of my journey, because let me tell you, the coaching space in general is so saturated. Like, I'm going to be friggin' real with you about it. You can open up Instagram and there are hundreds of coaches that are probably being served up to you. And like, that is the reality of it. Like, I'm not going to say that like, oh no, and like every single, there's not tons of coaches, and there's not like, there are tons of coaches. Okay. I might not even be the coach for you. Like, great. I want you to figure that out. And wait, I lost my train of thought. It was so good. This happens every time to us at least once.
And then we remember it 2 weeks later.
Oh my God. Wait, hold on. Nope, it's gone.
We were talking about finding why.
Finding why. Oh, pedestals. That's what it was. Thank you. This has really been a part of my journey. There are so many coaches, right? And so me finding my place in the sea of mentors and coaches, you can imagine, I mean, it's the same with any type of work when you're like, oh my God, all these people are like so freaking good at this. Like, how am I ever going to get to the place where people are choosing me to do the thing, whatever? Like that really became extremely, I don't love the word overwhelming, but like it was a very big constant that I'd wake up every day and I'd feel like, oh my God, like, how is it possible that the women who are meant to work with me are going to find me? There's so many of us. And then I'd start to do the thing where I'd put like this coach or mentor on a pedestal. And the second that we start to do that, it's absolutely wonderful to have mentors and people that you look up to, that you admire, that you want to learn from, that you want to figure out their ways of being and try it on for yourself. Like that's part of this process. It's not doing it alone. It's having this help and support. But part of my journey that's been really pivotal is not placing them on this pedestal that separates them completely from me. Because the greatest thing we can do for ourselves is be like, okay, they're here and I'm here, not here. You can't see me if you're not looking at this video, but like they're not high up on this pedestal where I can't reach them. Yeah. We actually have so much similarity because the way I see it is when we see people that are inspiring or admirable, or there's something about them that we're like, whoa, she's freaking cool. Like what's going on with that? The reason we see it is because it's within us already. And so the second we take those people off the pedestal and we just are like, okay, I'm going to learn, I'm going to learn from them. And we're closer together. We're closer to each other than I can even imagine right now. And the what I'm seeing in her is actually within me. And I'm just evolving into that right now, and take off the pedestal is how you actually close the gap in time in becoming that next version of yourself. So often we put people on a pedestal and then we keep them there. And it's like, that's not helpful. Like it's like trying to putting them as like the greatest at something and that you're never going to get there. I got rid of this idea of like becoming the greatest at anything. Like that might be controversial for some people of like, I really want to become the greatest, blah, blah, blah. I don't have a dream of becoming the greatest self-development coach. I really don't. I have a vision for becoming one of the greats. I want to be one of the greats. That when you think about all these great coaches, like I am among them, because that's not only going to be helpful for myself and what I call into my life and the context for my bigger desires, but also it's not going to put this thing where when I'm not the greatest, I'm suddenly the worst, which is what our brain likes to do. It's very black and white thinking. So it's like, it goes both ways. Don't try to strive to be like the greatest be one of the greats. And also that means that the people that you're learning from are closer to you than you even imagine. So if you're learning from them, you're already like leveling up on like an energetic frequency. So don't put them on the pedestal and hold them there. Learn, recognize the similarities to close that gap to become like almost like that next level. That's why we work with people, right? It's not just like the actual tangible skills. It's because we're like calibrating to their energy as well. Yeah.
I love that. I love that idea of the pedestal and kind of when we're already looking to them and saying that, hey, we're seeing whatever similarities, or we're like, hey, this is what I want to go after. We're actually in that. And that's how we can actually recognize it. It makes me think of this book called Steal Like an Artist. And the whole idea is nothing is new anymore. Everything has been done. But you then take things from different people and make your own thing of that. And that's that same idea. Let's look at the greats, not the greatest. Let's look at the greats and say, all right, I like this part vibes with me, this part here, and this is what I can connect with. And this is how I'm going to move forward and do things. Here, we're about to be real right now. When we started a podcast, Running Beer and BS, my old podcast with my buddy, John, I listened to the Minimalists, the whole minimalism lifestyle thing kind of just like changed my view on so many things, which is great.
Me too.
Literally their podcast, the way it starts, we modeled the intro 100% off of there. My current intro is basically the same thing that they do. And they've been doing it obviously for like 500, 600 episodes or whatever they're at now. But it's this idea of we're taking these things and we say, hey, I like the way they're doing that. I like the way that feels. So I go down that path. Then I realize, actually, I don't like the way all of that feels. I like way 70% of that feels. Okay, and that's it. That's going back to our why. It's going back to what feels right here and what is bringing my authentic self. Because I think that was my problem with my old podcast, is it felt towards the end that I was playing a character. I was playing this character in this show that was me. And then it just became this like real weird dynamic when I would meet people that weren't my friends I had just met from the show. They're like, hey, I heard your show, whatever. And it was hard to then play that. And I can understand maybe how actors and stuff feel that when someone connects with their character and then they expect them to be their character. You know what I mean? Instead of like actually meeting, where it's like, I can tell you right now, and I'll speak for you. Sorry. If you meet myself or Katie on the street, I can guarantee we're going to be exactly like this.
Yeah.
We're going to be spastic and we're not going to shut up. And you're going to be like, okay, we get it.
I talk with my hands a lot. I definitely like 50% of the time be wearing this hat.
I love that hat. Yeah. Did you wear that hat the last 2 episodes or or is that a newer hat? I
have 3 hats. They're all the same style. They're just different colors. In fact, I have my maroon one here and I also have a gray one. So
I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
The maroon one does look kind of familiar.
Yeah.
We'll have to look at it.
It's when I don't want to wash my hair.
That's fair.
Keeping it real.
This is why I wear these headphones. Like you can see the back of the hair if anyone's watching the video. It's messed up. But you wear the headphones, you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. No. But yeah, this idea that we put people on this pedestal and we can kind of level out and learn from them. And the idea of not trying to be the greatest, because, and this is probably a different type of approach to it, is the greatest changes. Before Tom Brady, 100%. There was a different greatest of all time NFL player. Now there's a new one. People make the Michael Jordan, LeBron James argument. We're just thinking about sports in that aspect. But any type of industry or thing in society, the greatest changes based off of the time. But if you look at the top 10, one of the greatest, you can find those common traits, the hard work, the ethics, what they put in to get to wherever they did. Those are the things that we should be chasing after, not necessarily the title of number one.
Yeah, it's who they be, because all those people, they have similar who they be.
Yeah.
They all.
I want to name the episode that.
Yeah. Who do you be? Like, honestly, like, because that's so much of my work now is like, everyone's doing the most. You're doing the most without the like, and this was like one of my very first things I learned from my very first mindset coaches was like, stop creating a to-do list first, create a to-be list, and then make your to-do list from your to-be list. And it shifts everything. And also on the note of like the best changes all the time, when you get that's like so important, because oftentimes we're putting caps on ourselves in all different capacities of all these things that we want in life, because we're actually like setting the bar like too low, which is like fucks with people's mind when I say that. I'm like, no, but like actually like it's bigger. Like actually within you, if you sat down and you like let go of all the stories and you like, if anything you did wasn't wrong, no one was going to get mad at you for your desires, like whatever, then you just like let it all go. It's big. It's really big. And we actually like make our dreams like super duper small. We actually talked about this in the League of Our Own masterclass. We keep our dreams like so small. And so like, that's when you start playing with like quantum meaning like limitless opportunities and things in the universe that is just waiting for you to calibrate your energy to call it in. Literally anything and everything is out there. And it's about you calibrating to the energy to bring it in. And so like, can you calibrate to the energy of like, I'm trying to think of like a very specific example. Like I am going to build more wealth over this lifetime than I can even contemplate right now. I literally can't even contemplate like how much freaking wealth I'm going to build in this lifetime because it's greater than my capacity to imagine it. Like, I don't even know yet. And that's the vision I'm holding. And think about how much you're going to learn and the moves you're going to take aligned with that versus like, I need to get a $10,000 raise next year. That just capped you. That just capped you. Difference. Another thing we talked about in the masterclass, actually, I'm just realizing you're getting sneak peeks into the masterclass, but the context for your dreams, that's what that's called. It's like, that's when you really start to play in this really fun place of like, that is the greatness of like being a soul in a human body is like, we don't get taught this for many, many reasons. But the second you start to like realize like, oh, like everything's energy, like we're working in like a universe that's co-creating with us and like limitless possibilities, everything is out there. Like whatever your desires are in you, your like deepest desires that you think are crazy that you don't share with anyone else. Like if it's in you, it's for you. It's just, you have to align to it, admit it, get honest, start making the moves to call it in. Like, it's not weird. It's not wrong. It's not like whatever it is, like, you wouldn't have the thoughts, the feelings, whatever, if it wasn't for you. And maybe not the exact way that you think that it's going to be in your mind. And this is the caveat, is authentic to what your soul's desires are. Because a lot of the time people are like, well, I want a Maserati. And I'm like, okay. No one said that to me, but like, let's use that as an example. Like, I want a Maserati. Okay, well, like, why do you want the Maserati? Like, what about that is important to you? Like, what about that? Tell me the feelings that it brings. Like, what is the deeper thing behind that? Whatever your carrot is, you want a Maserati, great. Like, great, add that in. But like, what is the thing? Is it that like, you're really committed to like building a very comfortable, like luxurious life and like having really nice things around you as part of who you be? We get so weirdly shamed about that, but also told that we should go strive for it. It's a very weird thing that fucks with our mind. But like, if that's a part of you, like own it, and also like recognize the feelings underneath it that it's going to provide you, and start like feeling that now. And maybe it won't come in as a Maserati. Maybe it's going to come in as a Lamborghini, and the universe is like co-creating, and it's like, here you go. It wasn't exactly what you wanted, but it's like what it was supposed to be.
Right.
It's so complex and nuanced. And that's often too why it's like helpful to have guidance in this, because there's so many little things about this that it's the guidance, but it's also just you. Like, it's all within you. Like, we came into these bodies on this earth with all this knowledge, and that we just get so far detached from it with the way that our society is. Yeah.
This idea of the limits we put on ourselves, I think that's something I talk to people like so much about, because it goes to this idea again of aligning with our why and kind of aligning in that direction. But further than that, to your point, is people so focused on a goal and losing track of the journey, not realizing all the things that they're going to learn in that journey. And it's important to have goals, to be striving towards things. But again, don't put these caps and these limits, because then you're going to find situations where you're going to reach said goal, reach that limit, and then go, oh, what happened? Why did it just cut off my video? It's the dumbest thing. There you are. So stupid technology.
Also, I love that this is like supposed to be the platform that's like, you won't have any issues.
Right.
Everyone's going to be streamed in just fine.
Yeah. Hey, Riverside.
Hey.
Listen here. You're messing with my juju, and I don't like it. Anyways, what was the last thing I said?
Like, where'd we go?
We were talking about limits.
Limits. That's right.
I had some sort of point. I'll figure out a way to edit this in a way that it doesn't seem as like just as awkward as possible. But I think this idea of us, when we limit ourselves, we are putting the goals. That's what we were talking about. We put these, we make these goals, and then we say, hey, based off of these goals, this is it. Like, I hit this thing, it's fine. I have this almost every single time I do a race. It happened, ran Boston Marathon last week, and hard race, just amazing experience. I was supposed to do in 2020. Something happened that year. Things changed. But because of that, I was like, hey, I crossed the finish line. And instantly, and any runners know this, or even people that reach hard to reach goals, instantly you're just like, now what? I just did the thing. I just trained for 4 months and I ran for 4.5 hours and it's done. Now, if that was the only thing that I had as a part of the journey, if that was my only why, if I didn't have a bigger picture of a healthier life and wanting to travel, wanting to meet people, wanting to do these things, then that would be a real shit show to kind of like sit in that and go, oh, I don't like this. This is not a good feeling, but it's a part of a bigger picture. And it's taking 100%. Away from these like little things that I'm doing, of the idea of crossing a finish line. Yes, I'm trying to do it in all 50 states. Yes, I'm very close to that. And I can picture what that looks like to the end of my head. And I do have that worry of this journey that I've been on for the last, 10, 12 years. That journey is going to feel different once it's over. But how do I then use that and say, okay, let's think about the journey. Let's think about the bigger picture, what I'm using this journey for. Because of my running, I have a podcast where I get to talk to amazing people like yourself, right? Because of this, I can grow in myself more than just the steps that I take.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kayla's texting me, telling me to come upstairs. I can't do that right now.
Oh no, you're frozen for me again. Oh, there you are. That's the third part of the League of Her Own masterclass, was talking about like, how do we take these desires, which are like goals that are often like very tangible things that are like great to strive for, right? Like finish this race, train for this race, do this race. And then I talked about like, how do we set the bigger context? How do we fit that into something that's like bigger, that can hold you through, that makes sense, that like it can turn out looking a little different and you don't get tripped up and feel like, oh God, now I have to stop and start over and stuck. I failed there. I did that, blah, blah. Like, it's like, how big of a context can you create? Like, for instance, I can have a dream, a desire to make or like have like, I don't know, 5 new clients next month in my one-on-one mentorship clients or whatever. That can be my goal. My context is like, okay, well, I'm going to do that by the end of next month. Like, what's next month? May, I don't know, time. End of May, and 5 new clients. That's like a really small context. Like that is giving me the opportunity to build evidence against what I want. And the second that I don't get it, it's like this evidence that like plants in my brain and my subconscious. Well, if I didn't do it, then I'm probably suck. I probably shouldn't run this business. Probably can't run this business. Probably not a good enough coach. Like, and then this is what we start to do when we have really small contexts. We're actually building evidence for what we don't want. And it's so weird and backwards. And it's just like a thing that we do because this is what we're trying to do. Like, you know, everyone's like SMART goals and like all these things, like, but they're actually super, super small contexts when it comes to like your bigger life streams. Yeah. And so like my context for my business is so fucking big at this point. My context for my business is I am on this mission, my own personal movement of helping women who are radically committed to their growth to unlock their own body wisdom and to really self-express in a way that is most authentic to them and unlock their personal power so that they can show up in their lives and attract everything that they want and live this big ass fucking life. And like, I am here to do that work. Period. That's the context. Like fucking huge context. So like, if I don't get 5 new clients, one-on-one mentorship clients doesn't come in next month, like, am I still fulfilling that context? Am I still holding that vision? Am I still making aligned moves within that? Am I and then I start to build evidence for it. When you have a big enough context, you start to build the evidence that you don't yet have for where you want to go versus building evidence against it. Yeah. And it's just this simple tweak of like, can you make the context bigger so that when the universe is co-creating with you and things show up not in the exact way that your like little human brain can imagine right now, it aligns with the bigger context still. And it's actually still providing more evidence that like, oh, we're still going, I'm still learning the lessons. I'm still like, it's still in line. It's still, and like what I was saying in the masterclass is like, you need that bigger context to like fit with you. That context is not going to work for other coaches that are doing this work. That might not sit well with their nervous system. That might be like, oh, that's freaking huge. I can't hold that. Like, and then they would start to build evidence against it, right? So it's about, again, for you, always and forever, come back to yourself, what feels good for you, like build the context around your dreams that feel good to you, that your nervous system can hold. And then like 2 years from now, that context might get bigger and bigger and bigger, the more that you start to like self-build this evidence of that supporting the things that you want to call in your life.
Yeah.
Along with all the other nuance of all the other things too.
It's this idea of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like we can speak negativity into a situation, and that is the only thing we're going to focus on. I've seen, I can't remember who it is. There's a ton of reels that obviously the algorithm is reading my mind with the things I'm thinking about. But it's this idea of like, if I tell you not to look at the trees while you're in the forest, all you're going to see is the trees. And it's this idea
100%.
of we focus on these things so much, and if we focus on the things that we can't do, or even worse, sometimes we focus on the limits that we put on ourselves of saying it is the $10,000 raise. That's it. So now my mind is only focused on that one thing, and I'm missing opportunities that would actually have further growth because no, but at $10,000, that's what I'm after.
You're like tunnel visioning yourself to anything outside of that may fulfill the same sort of like overarching thing that you're looking for. You're just whoosh.
Yep. It's the same. It's the idea you said. It may not look exactly the way that you expected it, but the result is the same. Hey, I want to be able to step out in my faith and understand that, hey, God has a plan for my life. There's something going on here. Even in the uncertain times, I have no idea what's going to go on. Hey, Jonathan, your position's been eliminated.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's not how I expected this to play out. But okay, we're going to roll with it. We're going to figure out how this plays out here. Because again, where is my focus? My focus isn't on the individual thing. And I'm not looking at that short-term aspect of it. I'm thinking that big picture, that big context to say, hey, this is where we're going with it. And I love every bit of this, Katie.
Yay, me too. That also I feel like we're going to be like 2 hours long. So maybe this will like wrap all of this up too. And this is the work when it comes to energetics, of understanding your energetic system, of understanding how to alchemize your emotions and all these things, and understanding coming back into the body. Like we're so disconnected from our bodies. That's why I started in nutrition work. Cause I was like, what's the foundational, like bottom piece? It's like fuel your body correctly for you. Not based on anyone else, for you. Fuel your body correctly for you so that you have some sort of like connection back into your body to then start to feel some of these things. Like where you want to go often looks like a lot of external things in your reality because we're humans and we live in a 3D experience. But when you get there, what's often most important is the feeling. So even if it looks different, if you think about your life right now, you are a dream version of yourself that you had in the past. And it might not look like in your 3D experience exactly what it looks like with your eyes, but the feeling of it usually is there. Like I can think back to when I worked corporate, and corporate does not align with me. This is not a thing for everyone. This is not a blanket statement. It's just for me. Corporate was not the right environment for me. And I sat for, oh my God, hours upon hours during the day doing my corporate work and listening to podcasts about entrepreneurship. And in my head, it looked like waking up at 5 a.m. and doing the entrepreneurship morning routine and like having like a place an office space that I would go to, that I would lease out and do this thing. And like what I had this whole vision of what it would look like. And I could also feel the feelings of what it was going to bring me, like freedom and like expression that I've never even felt before. And also like a deep connection to a mission. Like I was just missing all of these feelings. And now fast forward to however many years it's been, 6, 7, I don't know. And I'm here and it looks way different. And the journey to get here was friggin' wild. It wasn't anything that I thought it was going to be, but the feelings are here. Not all of them all the time even, but a lot of the feelings are here. So that's what's really important of getting in the body, because like, we're so disconnected from our bodies that we can't even like feel these things. We have to like actually get back in tune here and be able to feel it, to then like let that be the thing that when you get there, wherever there is that you think it's going to be, you're actually going to feel it. That's why like a lot of the times, like you'll have those moments. I'm sure you've had this moment at some point where you're like, oh, I did it. Or like, oh, I'm her. I have that moment all the time where I'm like, oh, I'm her. And you don't even realize that you've like gotten to the place that you said that you were going to get. Like, it's because it landed in your body and you feel it in your body the way that you had felt it in your body before. And the more that we can like mimic that pattern, that's the deeper stuff. That's the juiciness.
That is it right there. Katie, it can't be another year and a half before I get you on the show again.
I know.
It's unacceptable, and I will take all of the blame for it. We're not gonna let that happen. But thanks so much for coming on the show today. This has been a great conversation. And again, we could have talked for another hour, but I know we all have things we have to attend to since Kayla's texting me. But yeah, thanks. Yeah. She's like, I thought you said 3 to 4 and I don't know what's going on here. I'm like, well, I should have said it's Katie. It needed to be 3 to 7, just in case we have no idea how this is going to play out. But thanks so much for being on the show again.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for the thoughtful questions. Just thank you for being you. Thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Of course.
Everyone else, reach out to me on social media everywhere. Flores.run. Subscribe, leave a review for the podcast. Check out all of Katie's stuff. We'll have it in the show notes if I didn't say that before. Check out Hangry Gear. wearehangry.com. Thanks so much for joining me today. Remember to keep running with purpose, one step at a time. See you next week.